Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Right, it's just after 8 p.m. And yeah, we got something very interesting coming up. Another doctor turned comedian, all right, is going to be joining us on the show now. Reason I'm laughing is I was watching this video clip. Man, this so it's funny. Okay, so it's Suhayl Essa, doctor and comedian, and I was watching the video, man. It's 7 minutes 13 seconds long. It's on YouTube. You gotta check it out, man. This guy rocks. Now, anyway, having said that, Suhayl Essa is a qualified doctor, medical doctor with a funny bone, right? He began stand-up comedy around about 6 years ago, and he started performing across South Africa while making time to study and was inspired by the love of making his family laugh around the dinner table. Well, I could share the same sentiment, right? Now, he's going to take us through obviously his first year as a medical student in Johannesburg, where he tried out material. He tried out his material at opening mic nights at popular comedy clubs. And to talk to us a bit more about his journey, I welcome Dr. turned comedian Suhayl Essa. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Suhayl. Good evening to you and welcome to Salam Media and Friday Night Live with ST.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome stuff, man. Now, great to have you with us, right? Now, you share the sentiment where you like to make your family laugh around the dinner table, and so too, I share the same interest, I guess, around people as well. I mean, we people's people.
Mm.
Now, I want to talk about. I was looking at this clip, right, and it made me really laugh. Right, the one on YouTube, where it's about 7 minutes 13 seconds. Doctor and comedian. It was really funny, right? For this, I can't stop laughing. But anyway, having said that, you're going to be releasing, beginning again in Pietermaritzburg. But before we jump into the dynamics of obviously your promotions, etc., take us through your first year at varsity level, right? A medical student, you obviously got a lot of responsibilities on your plate, etc. In terms of
Mm.
studies and how do you juggle, going to all of these comedy clubs and studying at the same time. And what was your journey like? Your first 2 years at campus, and then what were some of your take backs when you went around? I mean, obviously, you Wits University and in and around Joburg, Maboneng, wherever it may be. And I also seen you shared a couch with David Cow. And I mean, that guy's
Mm.
hilarious. But before we get to that experience, talk to me
Mm.
about your first year at campus, where this all began in terms of your open mic nights.
So I started comedy much later on in my medical career. I had already been at university for about 4 years, and I was always interested, always passionate about comedy, but I didn't know that it was something that one could easily do, and it was easily accessible. And to be honest, uh, as I'm sure you probably understand, my parents were not too thrilled in the beginning when I started doing comedy. They said I needed to focus on my studies, but I actually found that my creative pursuit and my love of the arts and entertaining people actually helped push me to stay on the path of stand-up comedy, and it actually helped me de-stress, relax. It's quite a stressful degree. At the time that I had started comedy, I also started visiting the hospital and seeing patients, and so
Yes.
in my early years, a lot of my comedy was about those experiences, and it was almost cathartic in a way to
But
discuss
not
them on
laughing at
stage
the
in front
patients
of.
now, just so we're clear,
No,
right?
no, no.
I mean,
Of
because
course, of
people,
course.
no, just so we, because I mean, somebody will can you for this. Eh? Watch what you say.
La-
Yeah,
I think the humor is more centered around the system, the broken system in South Africa,
yeah,
and yes, it's sad, and yes, it's tragic that we have such a broken system. But I think South Africans love laughing at our tragedies. We laugh at ESCOM, we laugh at load shedding, we laugh when our politicians are corrupt. We find that
yeah.
that's the easiest way to cope and heal from all this tragedy. So I think that's where I derive a lot of my comedy from. And yeah, I've just grown strength to strength, and now I'm on my way to my first one man show tour.
Yeah.
Uh,
Big
Yeah.
up, man. Big up, man. Awesome stuff, man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now, Suhail, you obviously grew up loving comedy and great comedians. Who are some of your inspirations? I mean, you draw a similarity with like Riyad Musa, right?
Of
Whom I've
course, yeah.
obviously had the opportunity to obviously chat with as well at gala events and weddings and on air as well.
Mm-hmm.
David Cow is hilarious, but uh, what's some of who's an icon that you look at when it comes to the field of obviously the entertainment and the arts and in your field in terms of being a comedian, etc. Who's a strong motivator for you and who do you look up to in this field?
So obviously, I know that it's probably a bit of a cliche, but yes, Riyad Musa is one of my biggest inspirations. I mean, I met him very early on in my career, and I was lucky enough to even open for him at his show Doctor's Orders a few years ago. And early on, I mean, just listening to his experience and drawing from his experiences working as a doctor and then a stand-up comedian as well, and making the transition, and having those discussions with him about how difficult it is, not just as a profession to move, but also what your family's perception of that is, and the economic expectations that people have on you. So he definitely would be one of my big inspirations. And then, of course, I mean, I've spent hours and hours, probably days on end, watching stand-up comedy from the likes of Loiso Gola, Joey Rasteen, um, Trevor Noah, all of
Oh
these
man,
guys
Joey
sort of showed.
Rasdeen is a cracker, man.
Yeah,
Even Calvin Golston, I've had interviews with many of them, sat down with them, man. You can't stop laughing when you sit. I mean, you're trying to eat, and then it was quite
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to talk about Kagiso Ladiga's late night show, right?
Yes,
Sketch show
Bantu
with
Hour,
Human
Bantu Hour.
Sikela, the Bantu Hour, where you open for the
Mm,
best mic of the year and rather best comic of the year, Calvin Golston in Durban, right? Now, I spoke to Calvin
mm.
last year and the year before, where he obviously came up to Joburg and had a show. Talk to us about. I mean, obviously these are big names in the comedy and in the entertainment and arts industry, and I mean, you're rubbing shoulders with these guys. But behind the scenes, man, being a media personality, like they're humble dudes. I mean, you get to know them and
Yes,
sit with
yes,
them,
yes,
and it's
yes.
not this. People have this persona that this old is like he's all hard up and it's all goody
Yes,
two
yes, yes,
shoes
yes.
kind of thing, and he dunk his cooler as Echo. I even said a Jack Sparrow, man. And I mean, the guys are quite humble. How do you change this dynamic? I mean, especially among our narrow-minded society where people think, okay, this guy just likes fame and this guy's just here for name and fame and money and all of that. And when people get to know you, have you experienced or encountered some of your fans who came up to you and like, man, you're actually a humble dude, man. I didn't actually realize this is, you're just a normal guy. Because they look up to you and you're
Yeah.
like, something special. And at the end of the day, we're just human beings. Am I right or wrong?
Mm. I look. I mean, I think all comedians share one common goal, and that's to entertain. We want to make people laugh. We want to make people happy, and we're sort of united by that. We know how difficult it is because you start off and you are this normal guy. You're just a normal guy who has ideas in the world, and you do shows, and you get more popular, and then grows from strength to strength, and then you meet other people that are also good at it, and also have lots of people following them, and you find that all of them are just the same. They're just the same guy that you are. They just really enjoy doing this thing, and they're really, really good at it. And they become famous from just being really, really good at what they do. That's as simple as it is. And I think I'm humbled by the response that I've gotten from some of the people I looked up to when I first started, and now they almost have taken me under their wing. They support me. I have, I send WhatsApp voice notes to guys like Mark Lottering and David Cow, and I get responses immediately. It's crazy where this journey has taken me, and I'm really humbled by it.
Now, Swale, I want to talk about, the point where you mentioned about in 2017. Let's go back, right?
Mm.
Where Loisa Gola invited you to the event where you were to travel to London to dazzle audiences. What was your journey like there? And also, at the Creek, right up the Creek Comedy Club. Because I mean, obviously, comedy clubs overseas compared to South Africa, what's the difference? And where do you see comedy in South Africa opposed to comedy around the world and um, open mic clubs, etc. What's the differences between ours and theirs, and where is comedy in South Africa right now? On what level are we compared to the rest of the world?
So, I mean, touching back to that story with Luis, so I was actually in Grahamstown for the Arts Festival in 2017, and I was
Yes.
walking down the road, and he recognized me, and we had done some shows before, and he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing here? You want to come have lunch? Let's have lunch." We sat down, we had lunch, had a chat. Then he said, "You wanna open the show for me? I'm doing a week run of shows here in Grahamstown. You wanna open the shows for me?" So I said, "Hey, no problem." So I did the shows, and after that, he was like, "Hey, why don't you come visit me in London?" He's based in London now, and he was like, "You can do some shows there as well." So I took him up on the opportunity, went there, and I did a lot of comedy clubs there. It was quite well received. I was surprised. I had to work really hard to relate to the audience, but by the end, I think I had a very strong set. Um, and if you look at the first world countries that have quite a long history of comedy in their countries, they their comedy clubs are more well developed. They have a big live audience, unlike here in South Africa, where a lot of people still don't have that theater culture. They don't really go out as much. But I think it's growing in South Africa, and in time it's going to take off. We just need to keep pushing, and that's also another reason why a lot of comedians stick together and help promote each other's shows, that kind of thing.
Now, so in terms of being a Muslim, right, and in the Muslim community, how is it being understood? Because I recall back in early 2000s when I think the ETV channel launched, and Riyad Musa was obviously becoming a prominent figure at the time, with David Cow and Joey Rasdeen at the time, who was like at the peak once upon a time, with his famous laugh. There was this misperception and conception, and the Muslim community really clamped down harsh at Riyadh, saying, okay, the Islamic perspective, this and that. How do we as Muslims draw the line between, right and wrong here, and how has the Muslim community taken on to being comedians nowadays, and being a professional and being an art, and being good at what you do, irrespective of being a doctor. I mean, me being a media person, getting into stand-up comedy, whatever. I mean, the Muslim community does, jump harsh at you at points. Did you encounter the same? What
So
are
I
your
think
sentiments
firstly,
around that?
So I think firstly, the most important thing that I would want to impart to my audience is it's the intention that matters. I think for all of us, particularly as Muslim comedians, the intention is to entertain and make people laugh. The intention is not to hurt, to offend. And in so doing, if we get you to think about life or think about social political issues, then that's also a bonus as well. And it's a form of art, and obviously people interpret art in various different ways. But for me myself as the artist, I can tell you that I don't think anyone really truly goes out of their way to hurt or offend or harm anyone. They're just trying really hard to make you laugh and make you think just a little bit about what they're trying to say. And I think the
Yeah,
audiences nowadays tend to understand that. They tend to grasp the concept of comedy. I think people are not holding on too harshly to every single word that the comedian said. I think they
yeah,
take it as a joke, as it should be taken. And I in my experience, having done my 3 shows now, there are some topics that are a bit racy. There are a few topics that are a bit touchy for some people. But in the end, they
yeah.
understand that it's just a joke. And nobody has ever come up to me after the show and complained. Nobody's told me that I'm rude or inconsiderate. And I never swear in my shows. And I make sure that those types of things I stay far away from. Because as a Muslim, you also have a responsibility to give off a good image. And I do feel like, in the beginning, my family and my some of my friends also had concerns and said, well, you're going to bars and you're going here and there. And I
Yeah.
draw on my Islamic teaching, and I know I've really and in my teachings and in school and in madrasa, I learned about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he visited the
Yeah.
worst types of places to spread his message. And if I can go out there and be a positive and give a positive view of Islam, one that's not negative, then I think I'm doing myself a great justice. So and to my community. So I'm happy about that.
Awesome. Now you mentioned, something interesting about the Muslim community, and I like that point. But now, what about the highlight of your career? What for you was so far from when you've begun up until now? What's been the highlight of your career? Be it whether you've toured the States, be it you've toured London, wherever it may be, Grahamstown. You're now about to embark on your journey, and we're going to delve into this tour of yours beginning shortly. But before we do that, what's been the highlight of your career thus far?
So the highlight of my career probably was stepping on stage for the first time to see, well, not to see, to perform alongside David
Yeah,
Kaufman's show Blacks Only. And as I'm sure you know by the name, the audience is majority not me. So in front of 2,500 predominantly Black audience members, I got multiple standing ovations, and I was received very well. And for the first time in my life, after having doing gigs for 50 rand and 100 rand in bars and dingy places, I just felt like finally it's coming together. And that pushed me to actually say, you know what, I think I can take the leap, leave my job, and pursue comedy full time. And I'm actually sorry, I don't want to cut the interview too short, but I'm actually backstage, and I'm about to go on stage in a few minutes,
yeah, I
just so
can
that
hear
you
the
know.
static in the background. But anyway,
Yeah.
before we do any of that now, take us through this tour of yours beginning, right? Talk to me about the tour a bit more in depth. Obviously, I understand you intend to tour nationally with your new show, and you've navigated, you're looking at obviously performances in Johannesburg, Zero's Mafeking, and then your show beginning again addresses your new life journey through 2020 and COVID, right?
Mm.
Whenever you decided to take a step back of faith into being a full-time stand-up comedian. I mean, this is a massive step you've taken. Talk to us about this journey and what you intend on achieving from this. And then, yeah, you and I are going to meet soon in person. Yeah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
I
So
mean,
look,
I
it's
mean,
been a crazy experience. At the end of 2019, I decided that I'm going to leave. I'm going to be a full-time comedian. And hey, unfortunately, COVID came and there was lockdowns, and I had to go back to work on the front line. But slowly things are getting back to normal, and I'm getting back to getting on stage again and starting my tour, which was always my intention prior to all the lockdowns. So I've done my show already in Zeerust, Mafeking. Last weekend I was in Pietermaritzburg. Sold out shows everywhere I've been going, thankfully, and I really appreciate all the support I've been getting. I basically just share my life experiences through school, growing up in KZN, moving to Joburg, being a doctor and not being a doctor, getting married 1 week before the lockdown, all of these crazy things that have happened to me in my life, I share. And so far, the audience has really enjoyed it.
awesome stuff, man. Well, I may not keep you up too much, and I do know, and I see the crew behind you, obviously urging you on. Well,
Yes,
I'm gonna
yes.
usher you out, and yeah, man. Hopefully, I'm gonna have you on my show for some comedy insights on the next time we chat again soon. But we have an
Definitely,
awesome show tonight. Yeah, and you can just send your VIP tickets to my production team.
will do,
We'll be
will
in
do,
touch
will
soon,
do.
man. Awesome stuff,
So, am I
Bob.
going to be
You
seeing you? Am I going to be seeing you in Polokwane or Cape Town? Which
Well,
show are you
either
going
or,
for?
whether we gotta go to Toyando or Nirvana in Polokwane or whether we gotta go to Malmesbury, I don't care, man. You will find me there, brother. But we have an
Yeah, yeah.
awesome
So
show tonight.
6 November in
Yeah.
Polokwane, and 20th of November in Cape Town.
Well,
So whichever
you
show
do
you
know our
prefer,
sister
you let me know.
station is there, One Nation FM. So Desmond and I are gonna be having a long chat, and yeah, I'm waiting for the VIPs. But anyway, you go backstage. You have yourself an awesome evening. Wow, the
Thank you
crowd,
so much,
and
man.
all the best on your journey as well. Inshallah, until we chat
Jazakallah.
again, comrade. Assalamu alaikum. Have an awesome one,
Walaikum
man.
salam. Thank you for having me.
Awesome stuff. That's Suhayl Essa, Dr. Turn comedian. Yeah, and he's obviously, and I had him live backstage, man. That's the benefits of being on Friday Night Live with ST, man. Esther, maak jou luister. Having said that, it's 20 minutes after 8 p.m. on the dot. When we come back, I'm going to talk a bit about a fantastic gentleman called Zirk Werther. Now, unfortunately, he's unable to make it on air with me tonight, but I want you to just go and take a listen as to this man's journey. Man, it's been amazing. This guy has gone on to wow audiences. He's, traveled from Cape Town on a solo row to Rio de Janeiro, right? He's broken a world record, 7,200 kilometers, on a solo transatlantic row from Cape Town to Rio. And guess what? He's 59 years old. Yeah, he puts you and I in the back pocket. But anyway, having said that, it's 22 minutes after 8. A quick ad break, and we'll be back in a few. Keep it locked. Stay tuned.